Welcome back to Talk Today. The time is 8:50. Now, a man is fighting for justice after his son was killed in Ukraine under suspicious circumstances.
Kevin Burke's son, Daniel, was a British paratrooper and founder of the Dark Angels volunteer unit. He arrived in Ukraine in early 2022 to fight in the war against Russia. He was reported missing on the 16th of August 2023.
Kevin then flew out to Ukraine with the Sun's defence editor, Jerome Starkey, in September of that year. And Daniel's body was found exactly a month after he was reported missing on the 16th of September.
Well, an inquest into Daniel's death was opened and the coroner ruled it unlikely that Daniel was killed in an act of war, rather an altercation or incident that led to him being shot by somebody travelling with him.
Well, now Kevin is looking for answers and he joins us now with the Sun's Jerome Starkey. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for coming in as well. We really do appreciate it. Just if we can start, Kevin, if you can just explain what Daniel was doing out in Ukraine. If you can start the story and tell us exactly why he was there and what happened.
Yeah, basically it started with humanitarian aid from Poland into Ukraine at the beginning of the war. And from that it fast became a permanent venture into Ukraine. And it was initially in a combat role, but realised that there was a lack of medical recovery, and he was combat medical trained. And so he started what was known as Dark Angels. The dark bit came from the fact it was a black vehicle that he used to rescue people. And basically started doing frontline rescues and bringing people off and getting them into hospital and following it through. And got quite a name for doing it because the commanders would phone up and ask for him to come to the front line. So he was 24/7, but had difficulty maintaining staff, so people would leave. But that was basically it.
Right.
And how did you find out initially that he'd gone missing?
He went missing on the Friday, and we got a phone call on the Tuesday saying that he'd been registered as missing and that they were looking for him. What we didn't realise was that the cover-up had already started. He'd actually been killed on the Friday, and it was some 4+ weeks before we realised what had happened. As we realised that, the police held the suspects, which is his nickname's Adam, but it's Abdelfettah. They held him for 24 hours, and within that 24-hour period, he confessed to the shooting and described the shooting. And the description of the shooting that he gave on that day matches the autopsy report.
Right.
So the level of accuracy is quite high, but they let him go. On the Wednesday, they detained him again for 14 hours, but this time he was with his solicitors. And again, he confirmed that, the involvement, and again, they let him go. And so he's now escaped. We've just recently received credit, because it's been a long push and a long investigation.
Of course.
We've received credible information on who assisted him in his movement.
Right.
And so once we can close that side of things down, we can start to find out where he is. But basically, if you don't mind, this is a bit of an appeal for information. And Greater Manchester Police, who have been working with us and assigned a good team, a professional team, have given us a number. So I believe it might be showing on the screen, but it's 0161, which is Manchester, 872 5050. And if they just mention the case, they're ready to transfer that to officers that will take details down. And obviously drop the 0 +44 for anybody, particularly that's in Ukraine.
Interesting.
And so you're
thank you for allowing that.
No, absolute pleasure. And Jerome, you know each other well. You travel to Ukraine together. I think stories like this bring home actually the realities of war. When you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart, humanitarian aid, but you are in a war zone, and these kind of stories are horrendous. They're heartbreaking.
You're absolutely right. So, I mean, Daniel had become a friend of mine. I'd met him in the first year of the war, and I'd met him a number of times friends over the course of the following 12 months. And friendships are forged quite fast in the sort of circumstances that we found ourselves in, which initially was living in a bunker getting shelled by Russian forces. And Daniel was one of those characters. He really stood through as somebody who was really trying to make a difference. There's a lot of people with a lot of talk, especially among the volunteer community. Daniel was the real deal. It's utterly tragic what happened to him. And it's similarly tragic what Kevin and his family are now going through. Not only the anguish of losing his son, of losing brothers, of losing a brother to Daniel's siblings, but also now Kevin's had to turn detective, and that's extraordinary. The work that Kevin has done to try and close this case and bring Daniel's killer to justice is extraordinary.
I really wish we could talk to you for longer. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But thank you so much for coming in to tell your story.
To you as well.
Okay, thank you for the time.
I do hope you get closure.
And we hope we can help in any way possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin Burke and Jerome Starkey from The Sun there. Well, still to come,